Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, Milton, and Ben for Outer Rim Transmission, episode 220. This is a very monumentous episode because we have probably the biggest Star Wars news of the last decade, and I'm not over-exaggerating. We are talking tonight solely about transition in Lucasfilm. We have Kathleen Kennedy stepping down for president, being replaced by Dave Filoni as co-president, alongside of Lynwen Brennan. So we're going to get into all the details. We're going to talk about our thoughts, of course, and maybe just speculate about some things in the future as well while we're at it. We'll see where the conversation goes. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this one. I know it's been 2 weeks since me and Ben did a recording, and it's been even longer since we had Milton on the podcast. I know me and Milton look a little different. Both of us have had some kind of a change going on with our appearances, so it's a new year, new us, I guess. So how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Great to be back on the podcast. You know, is this the first one for 2026 officially?
For you, yeah, we did. Wait, yeah, we were here 2 weeks ago. Yep.
Right. So, but I mean, you're right. My change in my face. Listen, guys, I'm not sick. I just decided to shave my face, so you're probably not used to seeing me with my chin and my beautiful dimple showing. Just want to change it up for 2026 for at least the early part of the year. My facial hair will be back. Give it a couple weeks, but yeah, it's good to be back on the podcast. Good to talk some Star Wars. I'm really excited about tonight's main topic because this is something I think a lot of Star Wars fans have been wanting to happen for the last 10 years. And finally, it's happening. So can't wait to get into the restructuring of Lucasfilm and Disney.
Yeah, there we go. What an episode to come back to, Milton. There's so much excitement. It's tangible. Throwing it over to Ben. How's it going the last 2 weeks, man?
Good. This is, I'll say, we can trigger the Return of the Jedi galaxy-wide celebration, or I guess even say the Emperor's famous line that, this is a moment I've been waiting a long time for this moment. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun conversation talking about everything tonight. It's been really good. Been exciting, like checking out everybody's reactions to our main topic. We've seen it around the internet the past like 3-4 days. So it's been crazy. I mean to be honest with you guys, like I didn't even realize that normally I'm quick on these news stories, and one of my buddies calls me at like 10 o'clock at night the other night, and he's like, dude, have you seen the big news? And I was like, I thought it was something related to the NFL. and then he tells me about this whole topic, and I like about fell over because I thought it was going to be like a football story, and then it was this, and I was like, no shot. And it's been crazy the last 3 or 4 days.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Before we dive into the discussion proper, there's some housekeeping to get through. So first of all, if you are listening live, we very much appreciate you can interact with us in YouTube comments, youtube.com/Starrapter, but we're also available to listen to on any podcast platform of your choice. Just search Outer Rim Transmission. We did have a single comic book that came out this week, and this was also a very monumentous one because this is the final issue of Legacy of Vader issue number 12, which showcases the journey of Kylo Ren becoming Supreme Leader right after the events of Last Jedi, and it goes well into that gap of about a year in between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Spoiler alert, it does end with a literal cliffhanger where it says Kylo Ren will return. So we know that hopefully Charles Soule will be able to take another stab at this comic. This was the best comic of 2026 by a long shot, or 2025 by a long shot. So me and Matthew and Joel Davis over on the Ion Cannon Tractor Beam Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel are talking about that. But yeah, let's just dive on in. This came out pretty late on a Thursday, actually. I think it came out around 6 o'clock, so they got it in right before kind of stuff becomes quiet on the weekends there. And just to give you guys a backstory, everybody listening, there's been rumblings of this happening for literally years now, and it seems like every 6 months there would be another report from some pretty credible sources saying, oh yeah, she's stepping down. And remember, there was I think it was right before Celebration, even last year,
Right.
there was a big write-up that came out, and she like literally confirmed it. She's like, yes, I'm talking about leaving, but never gave a specific date or timetable. And yeah, there it is, right on StarWars.com, the official source for Star Wars news. It doesn't get more official than that. It is definitely official. So I'll just read like the top paragraph here. Lucasfilm announced today that after 14 years of leading the studio, President Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down from her role. Kennedy will return to full-time producing, including the studio's upcoming feature films, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and Star Wars Starfighter. Dave Filoni, he worked closely with George Lucas to build the Lucasfilm animation department on Star Wars The Clone Wars and help launch Star Wars live-action series alongside Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian, will take on creative leadership of the company as president and chief creative officer, and Lynwen Brennan will serve as co-president. So there's the official word from StarWars.com. I'm going to throw it over to Milton for first reactions to this crazy news.
Love it. Love it. And look, people that are going to, well, let me back up before I get into my actual feelings about her. But Kathleen Kennedy served her purpose for the past, was it 12 years she's been in power as president of Lucasfilm. We have to acknowledge, she did some good things.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she definitely brought in the relaunch of Star Wars with The Force Awakens, with Rogue One, with the merchandising over the first, I'd say 3 to 4 years, successful. I know the games weren't always the most receptive. Okay, fine, that probably wasn't in her department. But the movies, the initial TV shows, I'll give her credit. I think where it lost me was whenever the agendas would come in when it comes to like pushing certain narratives about Star Wars or politics or whatnot. I felt that's where she struggled. I felt she wasn't necessarily a storyteller. I think she tried to step in that realm of being a storyteller. She wasn't. She's a producer. She's there to manage the money, manage the crews, put the resources to good use that the director needs, makes executive decisions about certain things within the IP. I know she has a boss to answer to with Bob Iger. I get it. She did do a lot of good. Also, we have to acknowledge the bad. Weren't a lot. There were definitely a lot more, I think, bad decisions made the latter half when it comes to projects that probably shouldn't have been made, decisions that were made with storytelling, directors that she hired, the chaotic mess of directors falling out of projects, the various writers that had beef with fans on social media. I think the lack of transparency at times that Ben, you talked about, how Star Wars can be really cagey. I think at this point, it was time for new leadership. You know, I'll compare it to an NFL franchise. I mean, hell, Mike Tomlin, was the longest tenured coach in the NFL, who coached the Steelers for almost 20 years.
Wow.
I mean, going back to when I was in high school, my senior in high school, he took over. He finally stepped down. You know why? He knew the writing was on the wall.
Yep.
If he knew the best thing for the Steeler organization to move forward and be successful was, let me take a step back, allow someone else come in here with a new vision, new blood, new life. Let's do it. I think same thing falls for Star Wars. Kathleen, I think, likes this property. I won't say like. I think she loves this property. I think she made a very self-conscious decision to walk away to ensure that Star Wars will be successful moving forward. Because a lot of people, a lot of fans, I'm sure a lot of investors weren't always happy, especially the latter part of her tenure of what she was doing. I think this is the best move that Star Wars have made, that Disney has made in a long time. Dave Filoni is a disciple of George Lucas. Literally, everything he touches, everyone loves. Clone Wars, Ahsoka, you know, like the episodes he's directed in live action shows that he's done.
Yeah, Rebels.
He's Rebels.
Rebels,
Right, he understands this lore of Star Wars. Not saying that he won't be different. Not saying that he won't stray away from what Star Wars is at times. But I feel like we literally have a George Lucas 2.0 that's finally stepping in. Best moves for Star Wars. Best move for Disney. Best move for the fans. This is what we're looking for. I can easily just, you know, say some off the wall shit so negative about Kathleen. And trust me, I want to.
I think
But that's another episode. Best thing she's ever done.
Well, Milton, I want to throw this out there to you. So here's the thing to throw out there with that when we're talking criticisms of Kathy and, the way things were ran or whatever. If you copy and paste the exact, like if you stamp Dave Filoni's name to all of these things that her name was on, we would be wanting Dave gone too. If it was played out the exact same way, you know what I mean? Because like if you have 12, 13 years of shaky stuff and controversial things and whatever, no matter who the creative's in there, or if like look at Marvel, if Kevin Feige was running things into the ground over there, they would want him gone. It doesn't matter that, I mean, look, they ran Bill Belichick out of town in New England after 6 Super Bowls. So I just think that's something fans need to remember when we talk about this stuff. That I just want to put that out there. That no matter whose name that was running the company, it's time for them. It's time for new leadership.
Right, and this is where I think. And look, I've already saw on social media that again, I try not to make this a political or gender thing, but let's be real here. It's 2026. This is what people do on social media. I've literally seen people talk about, oh, you guys didn't want her in there because she's a woman. Oh, you didn't want her in there because she pushed a female narrative, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. There's a lot of successful CEOs or presidents that are women in all types of business. I don't hear anyone bitching about them. I know there's plenty of female-led agendas in the world. No one complains about them all the time. You know why? Because they actually make sense for those actual mediums or companies that they're running. Not saying it didn't work for Star Wars at that time, because it did. You know why? George has been pushing that since 1977. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
some of the best characters in Star Wars are females. You know what I'm saying? Some of the best employees he had in Lucasfilm, Unlimited back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s were women that were in power. So I don't want to hear that, the reason why you guys are happy is because she's a woman and she's out. That's not what it is. I've been seeing women in power for a while. Never bothered me. The problem is how she went about it and how she just kind of, I think, she didn't have much. She wasn't in touch with the fandom of Star Wars. Not saying that she always had to placate to fans, because we're not always that smart. However, we're actually knowledgeable about this property. We understand what it's all about. George Lucas made it something that wasn't just about a man or a woman. It's about how you feel, how you can connect with it, how you just could relate to that hero's journey. Wasn't about no political agenda or gender roles, bro. Like, I think that's where fans saw the disconnect with her and how she pushed things. And that's where I think, okay, let's get back to how Star Wars was, in a sense of, it's not about what you look like. It's not about where you come from. It's about hero's journey. It's about feeling it, about being connected with it. If you want to sprinkle in some stuff here or there, fine. Make it organic. Don't make it a weird agenda. And I think Dave will get back to what Star Wars was originally was, and where it needs to be moving forward.
Well, I think you've hit so many good points on that.
Yeah, really. I so many points. I'm like,
Chris, I feel like Milton knocked out about 80% of our your and my intros. But you nailed all of it there, because I think not to like completely reiterate everything you said, Milton. I think that's something folks need to remember when we're all like talking about Kathy online and all this whole thing. Like, it has nothing to do with like gender or anything like that at all, because like in Star Wars, like we've had powerful women characters literally since the opening sequence of the franchise. And even George just said a couple years ago when he was at one of the conventions or whatever it was, when he got asked about like women in Star Wars, and he was like, he's like you got Princess Leia and you got Padme Amidala. She's leading the entire Republic. She's out here in a battle wearing a big queen's outfit, essentially. Like, that's awesome. And like, so like that's the thing with fans. And I think the reason why, not to dive too far into that sort of realm, but I think the reason why the way things are nowadays with folks when they discuss topics like this with Kathleen versus Dave, because of her being a woman versus Dave being a man, it comes down to, it's an easy way to dismiss someone's criticism of someone by just saying, "Hey, you're sexist." It's a very easy way to dismiss it. When Star Wars has had so many, I mean, other than like Luke, I mean, honestly, like my second favorite Star Wars character is Mara Jade. Like, You know,
Facts.
her character is awesome. Like, she literally is my second favorite Star Wars character out of the Legends or canon, whatever. So, like,
I
I
love
think
what's her name from the
Bo-Katan.
game. Not Bo-Katan, but old girl, Satele.
Yeah, Satele, you
Oh
got her
yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Like there's so many good characters like that. And I think you know, so that's the thing fans got to remember when we're talking about like this whole changeover, you know, when you talk about the criticisms of Kathy or successes, it doesn't have anything to do with her gender at all. Honestly, unless you're just one of those weird fans that go that route, which, you know,
right.
we aren't. But yeah, for me, like my overall impression of this whole situation is I think, you know, it's a good time to change leadership. Like you said, Milton, it's time. We really got the vibe. It's time. And like even, you know, the numbers aren't everything, but the numbers don't lie either. Like
Mm.
you know, she made a lot of money for Lucasfilm, which is undeniable, but arguably, you know, I don't want to be the fan, but like, you know, if you stamp Milton Weber on The Force Awakens as produced by, it still would have made the same amount of money because Star Wars was hyped to be coming back. Like, I really think no matter who made that movie, it could have been JJ, it could have been Ryan Johnson who made Force Awakens, and that movie still would make $2 billion. Like, it was gonna break the box office regardless. Um, but I think with her, you know, she made so much money for Lucasfilm. But the problem was over the past several years, it's just been like a downward trend
Yeah.
of everything. You know, we've seen it, Chris, like with the game sales. We've seen it with um, you know, viewership. Like, you know, I always like talk about viewership with stuff. But if you look at Mando season 1, season 2, season 3, you look at the numbers from Ahsoka, Kenobi, you know, those shows were so high, and then it just started petering down. Like Mando season 3 was down. Skeleton Crew, nobody watched it. I mean, and you know, I joke about nobody watching Andor, but Andor's numbers pale in comparison to the first couple seasons of Mando because, you know, then even though that show by a lot of people was considered a quality show, not a lot of people watched it because, in my opinion, you know, the vibe of and like quality of Star Wars or whatever, I would say, I don't know how I would describe it. I guess the vibe of Star Wars overall, like people have lost interest in the franchise. And I think the core issue with it is it has to do with all these canceled and, you know, rehashed projects. And, you know, you're a movie studio and you haven't. Could you guys imagine? Let me ask you this. Could you imagine Kevin Feige coming to Marvel and saying, hey guys, we're not going to put out a movie for 7 years?
That's
Like,
insane.
like
Mm.
what would Kevin Feige, if he went to Bob Iger and told him that, he would probably fire him on the spot. And like, and I feel like with a lot of these things, it's like, you know, you have like Kathleen basically has gotten a pass because, you know, you can keep pushing back with delays or, oh, creative controversy. So it's kind of been able to
Right.
like sweep the issue under the rug for 7 years. And then the main thing is, guys, you know, I know we're primarily a Star Wars podcast, but this is a Lucasfilm discussion as well. I think honestly, one of the nails in the coffin of for a potential changeover was Indiana Jones being the
Yeah.
biggest bomb in box office history. They lost, I think, 375 million, I think it was.
Something
So
like
it
that. Something
just
like that.
it's I think that was pretty much all she wrote. So
Right.
yeah, so for
I,
me, like I said, I think she's had a rocky time with Star Wars, and I just feel like it's a time for a leadership change, and I feel like there will be more of a positive trajectory also because, you know, Milton, I've talked about it since day one. You know this. I Kathleen, she may be a great producer, all that, but she is not a good public speaker. And Dave, at minimum, whether Dave does better creatively or not, we'll see. At minimum, he knows how to talk publicly, like to the fans, and not trip over his words on certain things and calls issues that way. Like he knows how to stay at minimum neutral. And I think that's going to be a big thing because communication to the fans is very big.
I
Mm.
agree. No, and I'll never forget. And Chris, I'll let you go in a second. I'll never forget the panel when I think whatever Star Wars Celebration it was when they were promoting The Last Jedi, and Mark Hamill was talking about his character, and then Ryan Johnson chimed in, and they were hemming and hawing about it. Remember, she interrupted and said, "Oh, Luke Skywalker is so integral to this story. He's so important."
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself after watching that movie, no, he wasn't, because you did nothing with him. Like you destroyed Luke Skywalker, bro, and no one wanted that. And I feel like she
He
had
was
because
integral to making the
remember,
fans mad.
right, and remember, Mark Hamill was so on the line of being super honest on that promotion of that movie where he even said it. They told me that I couldn't talk anymore because I kept just saying like things I've just felt about this. And she put her foot in it when she said, "Oh, Luke's so important." No, he's drinking cow milk or space food milk. Like, no one wants to see that, but whatever. Go ahead, Chris. I'm cutting the promo for whatever.
It's fine because you're literally talking about the same stuff that apparently Christopher DeBias is saying in the chat right now.
Oh, that's my man's. That's my dog.
Oh, really?
That's my boy.
He's saying the same thing about the cow milk. You guys are the same brainwave. That's pretty funny. Of course, you can join us live anytime we go live on the channel. We love to hear your up to the minute commentary with our discussion. Love it. But yeah, again, Milton had done such a good introduction to this very topic that I know some of us are really happy to see the change. Some of us are like, yeah, it's fine. But I think it's best to go about it the way Milton did and say, hey, look, there are some goods and there are some bad about this situation. And yeah, like Milton, like Ben, you said, made a lot of money. That's the primary objective of the president, is to steer the ship, make sure it's profitable for the company. And I think lately it maybe has not been the most profitable. Yeah, exactly. Like the Dial of Destiny.
I didn't even mention Solo.
The Willow show was made by Lucasfilm. That completely got removed and it wasn't even available to watch after the fact. So that's like something unprecedented we've ever seen, so there's a lot of things there.
There were over 10 or 12 projects announced and unannounced, like, movies, shows, different things. Like,
yeah,
that's what I think I added up too. So you throw that out there.
Yeah, but I've been feeling this, man. I might have mentioned it at some point, just like, hey, I feel like Star Wars has been on a downward spiral, sort of. I don't know if we'll ever get to that 2015 hype feeling that we all had, where it was like, I don't think we'll ever get there again unless Star Wars completely goes away for like with no series for like 10 years again or something like that. Maybe that would happen again, but now we have to have that approach where it's like things have to feel special again. And I think changing of the guard is a really good way for that to happen. But I mean, we'll talk about Kathleen Kennedy for like one more little topic here, because I do want to talk about the two others that are joining. So with her, it's like, okay, she's a producer. The interesting thing is she's totally not gone from Lucasfilm. She's working on the next two movies and maybe even more. I'm curious to see how she's going to be like flexing her full power as a producer, which is what she is best at. As a president,
I interpreted her comments.
Yeah.
I interpreted her comments as it sounds like she's just producing Starfighter and Mando.
Yeah, that's confirmed. She said she might do more later based on like this Deadline article we'll quote later, with various cool tidbits we found from it. But, it's I want to see like her like, okay, that's cool. Like she's gonna do what she loves again. Let's see how that really shines in Star Wars. Again, like Milton said, producer's roles, not so much on the creative aspect, but more as like the budget and just the logistics and things of that nature. But it's good to see. It's good to see she'll still be in the fold. But then turning it over, and I know we're talking about Dave Filoni so much because obviously we're so excited. We all know who he is. I do want to just give a brief rundown on Lynwen Brennan, because I think, we often overlook, oh yeah, this is a co-presidency. It's not just Dave Filoni. So if you're not familiar with who she is, she's been with Lucasfilm since 1999, at the same time that The Phantom Menace came out. So that's huge legacy right there. Beginning her tenure at Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, where she rose through the ranks to become its leader in 2009. She was appointed to General Manager of Lucasfilm in 2015 and President and General Manager of Lucasfilm Business in 2024. During her tenure, she has guided the company through the transformative technological shifts with a clear strategic vision and commitment to innovation, and her industry leadership has been recognized with Lifetime Achievement Awards from Visual Effects Society and the honor of Commander of the Excellent Order of the British Empire. Well, that's interesting. She is Welsh. So yeah, I mean, she's been at Celebrations, and she is the business person side of things. And apparently, Disney has done this before, where they have appointed like co-presidents. Like I believe there's one for reading this Deadline article, at Pixar, they have the same situation, as well as Walt Disney Animation. They have the same situation, two presidencies. The other thing I will kind of compare this to is what's going on at DC Studios with James Gunn and Peter Safran. Peter Safran is the producer, the money guy, the producer that's going to get everything all situated. James Gunn is out there, knows every single little lore bit that you could possibly imagine about the DC universe over the last 80 years or however long it's been. That is basically analogous to what's happening with Lucasfilm with Dave Filoni and Lynwen Brennan. I mean, it's very much in its infancy right now with DC Studios, but I think you guys will both agree that DC Studios is off to a great start with Superman, with Peacemaker, with Creature Commandos, and they got Supergirl. It looks great. That's coming out this year. So, I mean, I really like that idea, because if you would have told me that, we could kind of move on to Dave Filoni at this point, I guess, but if you would have told me that Dave Filoni would have been president, I would have been worried, because I'm like, yeah, it's great, but this guy has no business dealing with being a president. I guess, you know, he doesn't really deal with money. He doesn't really deal with that sort of thing. But Lucasfilm, Disney was smart in its approach to say, okay, this guy's going to be a good figurehead for the company, but he needs help from somebody else to kind of make the executive orders and all these sorts of things. So I really like how they're doing this. Time will tell how well it proves to be. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to just gloss over to touch on that real quick, because it's good.
No, I like that idea. We use analogies all the time on this podcast. Another sports analogy: a great head coach needs a great general manager when it comes to football.
Look
at the most successful NFL franchises when it comes to championships, consistency. Usually a head coach isn't the one that makes all the decisions on player personnel. It's usually a GM who does the player personnel with the financial piece. Head coach coaches and also then intertwines on the player personnel piece. Both parties are focusing on the same goal, but one specializes in the other. And then they support each other on the other end of it. So I think looking at this, having Dave, who's the creative head, is like, okay, I know where I want to take the ship. And then what's her name again?
Lynwen.
Yeah, she controls the money in that aspect. And I'm sure Dave has his moments of say, hey, I might need this based off of this. I'm sure she might say, hey, Dave, we may have to shift creative focus here due to budget reasons. That's how you work together to form, I think, a good partnership to ensure that this can work moving forward. Again, look, it works all the time in sports.
Yeah.
You know, great GM, a great coach paired together, and they're successful and they're on the same page, tends to work out.
Yeah.
Unless you're the Cleveland Browns. You know what I'm saying? No. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, and then we're hiring a 29-year-old coach, but we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think I think this is a good pairing. And also, hey, I want to give a little shout out to one of my buddies, Star Wars Santa. He's another YouTuber. He, on one of his streams last year, this was over a year ago, like last February, March, when that Kathy stuff started coming out, there were rumors about Dave doing a co-presidency, and Santa went through all the Lucasfilm employees on one of his streams for like 3 hours when he was streaming, and he whittled it down to like Lynwen and like one other person. He's like, I'm pretty sure this might be the woman who's qualified the most to work with Dave, since Dave is inexperienced. And Santa pointed that out over a year ago, just from like process of elimination. So good detective work on him. But yeah, I think this whole pairing is a good pairing just because of like her experience, like you said, Milton, working the business side and all of that. And then you got Dave, who, in my opinion, like, I know this is like, this can be like some folks, maybe criticisms of Dave, in my opinion, Dave, the reason I am excited about this move is because I feel like Dave, like you said in your opening discussion, Milton, Dave is like pretty much the next George Lucas. So he honors George's vision and the way George views Star Wars and things like that. And I've seen some people say, oh, well, Dave sticks to George Lucas Star Wars too much. Well, it's like, yeah, we're in Star Wars, folks. Like, we want to, you know what I mean? We're in Star Wars. So what do you expect? So, there's that. So I feel like, there's that aspect that I very much agree. And like, I really I really endorse the fact that he is kind of like that. And also, the thing with him that's most intriguing is just like, you know, even though we're on the Dave part of this discussion, Chris, Kathy said, she got asked in that article about the future projects, and she said it's up to Dave, like in terms of like, she was getting asked about the ones that were already, development or in development or greenlit or whatever, and she said it's up to Dave. So it's great that she's not, she didn't try to like overstep and be like, hey, we still got to make these even though I'm out the door. So I really think it's a good passing of the baton. And also, me and one of my friends who always listens to the show, Alex, we were having a good discussion about this. The internet would make you believe that Kathleen Kennedy and Dave were like, battling it out WWE style in the Lucasfilm offices or something for Lucasfilm, essentially. And they aren't. Like, I mean, she's pretty much the reason why Dave continued on with Lucasfilm. And also, she's the one that recommended Dave to get this position 2 or 3 years ago to Bob Iger when she started, forming her, how would she say it? What's the word? Succession plan, So I think that's something people got to realize. And, also a little shout out to John Campea. He came up with the terminology for it. But like he said, she pretty much views Dave as like her son, essentially. So like that's why this is such like a smooth transition, really, because she's not passing it off to some like random creative like James Gunn, for example, like just a random person who hasn't worked with the brand or anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the big reason why it's going to transition well.
Yeah, and that you kind of went around the bush a little bit on that one just at the end there, because I was thinking it's great that these two people are veterans at Lucasfilm. They're not hiring somebody that only started there like 3 years ago. They're not hiring somebody from the outside. These are two people. Lynwen was there since literally Phantom Menace. Filoni's been there since literally the Clone Wars. Like these guys, they're embedded in the ecosystem, in the culture, and they're loved by all their peers and everything. Like, gosh, like Dave Filoni, such a great guy. Like every panel I've ever been to, I haven't really ever had interaction with him personally, although I know friends that have. It's like the guy's one of us, simply put. Like you're putting in charge somebody that's like the rest of us, essentially. Not saying not as a slight to Kathleen Kennedy, but it just shows you like the street cred that Dave Filoni has is like, okay, this is gonna work. If it doesn't work, what will? I mean, they'll have to go for like a complete person maybe on the outside next time. I don't know what they would do, but this is like the best case scenario. And then branching off of that, it's like, well, what's going to happen with Dave Filoni, right? Like, obviously, he's going to have to let the gas go on some things he would be more, involved with personally, because now he's going to have to really just deal with the overall vision, which is, I guess, kind of what you want in the beginning, in the first place.
Yep.
I mean, he's going to be finishing up Ahsoka season 2. But then as part of the Hollywood Reporter, they broke this as part of their scoop there or whatever. They're saying like he has put his movie on the back burner, which is kind of a direct relation to that, where I'm like, yeah, are we worried we're maybe not going to see more directly handled Dave Filoni stories in storytelling because now he's going to be the captain of the whole entire flagship? What do you think about that, Millen? That's something I've been thinking about.
Oh, go on.
I don't really have any concerns about. I don't really have any concerns about Dave. I guess his focus when it comes to this new role. I think he'll be able to keep it singularly focused when he needs to. That's why you have co-presidents. I think that this role is going to allow him to focus on the creative side. And I'm sure they'll structure it in a way that he can just be the focus creator versus the executive president when he needs to make a decision. I have no concerns about it. I mean, I'm sure this happens all the time in business.
Yep.
I mean, look at James Gunn. He's doing it now with, I know Peter Safran's his co-head, but you're telling me Peter Gunn he isn't making any financial decisions based off his projects. I'm sure he's being told what's going on. I'm sure he has a say in some of it a little bit. So I'm not concerned about Dave. Dave is super embedded in this IP. He understands this lore, so I have no concerns about where his focus will be, quote unquote, shifted, or he won't be able to really balance out both roles when he needs to.
I think I honestly think no disrespect to the Hollywood Reporter, but I think they're just, I think, when you write something like that, like, hey, Dave's movie's on the back burner now. I think that's, to me, that's perfect engagement farming for fans, because you get fans riled up and saying, "Oh my gosh," I had a text from one of my buddies saying, "Is Dave's movie canceled now?" Because of like Lucasfilm's track record. But my thing to all of that is, why? All right, if I have a project in development and I get promoted to a better job, more money, more flexibility, and more control over my project, then therefore, why would I cancel my project? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like there's no way Dave would do that, or no way Dave would delay it like for a very long time. And like, we've said it for a long time now. We've known about the Dave movie for, I think, a couple years, and like that movie was projected to be 2028 or 2029 anyways, at minimum. So like it's like, what's the back burner? 2029, 2030? Like, it's going to be around the same time frame anyways. And like, also to me, I guess when it comes to that whole thing, is like, if they would cancel it, then that means you're leaving the Mandoverse open ended and never finishing it. Like, so I don't think financially it makes any sense for Disney to do that. And I again, creatively and arrogantly as well, why would an artist, why would a creative, you know what I mean, not finish what they started? And that's why, like, for me, I think with Dave, I mentioned it a little bit in our group chat, and we'll like dive into it in future podcasts for, a much more in-depth discussion. But I think there's a chance Dave continues on and tries to quote unquote like fix the Rey character, because, he could be arrogant or cocky enough or whatever, confident in himself enough, where, if you guys think about it, when he created Ahsoka, everybody hated that character. I mean, I was one of those people. I thought her character was annoying and a terrible character. And then he built her over the years, made her story well, made her more likable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then now look, Ahsoka's probably one of the most universally loved characters in Star Wars. And I feel like,
Right.
there's a chance Dave in his head, you know what I mean, Milton, if you've done some good stuff over the years, I mean, not to say Dave's arrogant, but you're arrogant enough to say, hey, why can't I go and fix Rey? There's some solid building blocks here. I could,
Right.
Daisy Ridley's a good actress. Maybe I could be the reason Rey gets fixed.
Yeah, and Daisy right now is making some bangers of these
Yep.
movies she's been in lately.
Right.
And she's showing her range of being an actor.
Yep.
And
But she's improving.
I thoroughly enjoy seeing her in other stuff. And so you mentioned about improving a character, or at least making changes to where she's more lovable and likable. I'll use a wrestling analogy. Y'all know I'm a big wrestling fan, as you see behind me. I'm my heavyweight belts back there. And look at the shirt I'm wearing, the OTC.
Huh.
Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns, literally 10 years ago, was not loved by the wrestling universe, because they tried to push him as his baby face, and the fans said, no, we don't want him. He's not a good guy to us. But all of a sudden, when he turned heel, and they allowed him to be built up into this badass heel, 3-year straight champion, now he's a baby face or anti-hero, we all love him. Like that's the thing I think of, because WWE was smart to say, okay, let's pivot this character. Let's build him what the fans want to see. And if we want to make him into a good guy, then he'll be loved again, because we had to listen to the crowd, per se. I think Dave will take the Rey character, listen to the crowd, and say, okay, how can we make this character, one, relatable? How can we make this character likable? How can we make this character go through a crucible that people can understand and say, okay, I can get behind this. So when it is time for her to make her true hero's turn, okay, she's organically earned it. And I think Dave is arrogant enough to say, let's get this character on track, because let's be realistic here. People don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. She's the future of Star Wars right now. That character is the future of Star Wars. She's the last official Skywalker. So they have to build her up to where they say, okay, she's our crown jewel, to where we're going to move this property forward. And I think Dave has the ability, the innate ability, to make her somewhat likable, respectable, and that fans will get behind her. Because again, I think Star Wars rushed her character way too much. I think Dave will take this opportunity to get that right to where Star Wars will be in the right path again.
Well, think about the accomplishment, guys. Imagine if Dave could hang his hat on, hey, I was a big part in quote unquote fixing the prequels with George with the Clone Wars.
Oh.
I made everybody love Ahsoka. Everybody loves my stuff in the Mandoverse and Ahsoka show and whatever, and Rebels and whatever else. You know, for him, he's shooting, 6 for 6 or whatever it is, and in his head, he's probably like, hey, think about this, guys, if Dave makes all the critics of Rey at minimum like her, if not love her, if he makes her character pretty much like 90% liked or 85% liked, he's pretty much going to be immortalized in the Star Wars fandom because most people consider that impossible at this point. So I think that's where it's heading, and that's why in that article, Chris, I think that's why that Simon Kinberg trilogy is really getting worked on, because I think that's going to be the main hammer home point of what they really want to really get a good, solid, foundational story with that.
Right. And Chris, before I let you go, could you imagine if Dave Filoni got me to love The Last Jedi because he changed the Rey character? That'd be a feat. Okay, because I can't watch that movie. Just saying.
Oh yeah. That would be something. That would definitely be something. So, going way back to the point I brought up to Ben about, these different movies and all getting made and things on the back burner. Circling back to that, I think the reason why they're doing that right now is they're doing a wait and see with Mandalorian and Grogu. That movie will determine what the future of the Mandoverse is. If that movie delivers and it gets let's just say $800 million at the box office, they're going to fast track maybe a Mandalorian and Grogu 2 movie or something to that nature. If it doesn't end well, then maybe Ahsoka season 2 could be the end for the foreseeable future, unfortunately, because it's this big climactic battle of Thrawn, they could maybe just end it there or something like that. So I just wanted to make sure we cover that base real quick.
I do think though, if you're Star Wars, you have to be aware going into this movie, just like DC was with Superman. You have to be aware of this Mando movie. You can't go into it thinking you're making 1.5 billion Force Awakens money. Because if you are, then you might as well throw it all away now and fire everybody and just shut the company down. Because I would be happy to be wrong about that and see Mando make 1.5 billion, but for the most part, if you guys look around, unless you have a few outlier cases like Avatar or look at last year, God, Minecraft made billions.
Whoa.
Things like that. You have those types of movies. I don't think this movie's going to even make 800 million. To me, I think the budget was around, I think it was 170 or 190. I think it was a little less than 200 for this movie, which basically means you got to make close to 400 to break even. And to me, I told my buddy this months ago, I think this movie is going to fall right in the 500 to 700 million range. They're going to look at it as a slight profit as long as it is at least well received by the fans, kind of like Superman. Superman didn't make a ton of money, but it was well received, so it was a good start to the new DCU. And I think that's the expectations they're going to have going into this movie, because movies aren't making close to billions of dollars anymore for a lot of these nerd properties, because a lot of it is just down, unfortunately. It could be just brand quality, it could just be oversaturation, it could also be the whole streaming issue, because even for me personally, there's a lot of times with movies nowadays I go, I'll just wait a month and a half and I'll watch it on streaming when it comes up there versus going to a movie. So I think there's a lot of that with the general audience that comes into play. So for me, I think this movie's making maybe 500 to 700 at best. If it makes more than 700, I will be thoroughly surprised. But yeah, I think it's going to fall in that range. So to me, it's just it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it, because you have that movie, you have Starfighter, you have Ahsoka, and basically nothing else because, like with Kathy saying it's up to Dave, when she says it's up to Dave, like, guys, if we get handed the keys to the Lucasfilm car for a moment, let me ask you this. If we get keys to the Lucasfilm car, you have all these projects coming up, and you hear the former president say, hey, it's up to you to make the choices now. Are you going to continue with all the projects? You probably want to instate your own project or some of your own ideas or directions. So it's going to be very interesting. And I think the big monumental moment, Chris, is going to be next Celebration. Because think about this. Think about this. Please, Lucasfilm, if you're watching, please pay George whatever amount of money it is to get him to come to Celebration, to do like to do a ceremonial passing of the baton to Dave, and do that whole, make it a spectacle. Do whatever you can to make it a spectacle. Get George up there. I don't know, have him pass over a lightsaber to Dave or something, or whatever. Like, just make a scene of it. And I think that's where our first initial, because I think this whole calendar year or the next 18 months essentially are going to be them formulating an idea, a future plan. I think we won't get the future plan until Celebration, and Dave's going to be like, hey guys, this is like our vision and direction of the company. What do you think? Essentially.
Yeah, and that's what I was waiting for, was a video from Dave Filoni filmed from his video camera going, this is what we have in this year, because that's exactly what James Gunn did. No, of course Lucasfilm's not going to do that, but I love when James Gunn did that. He just sat down in front of the camera very casually in his office and just rattled off like 10 projects like it was nothing. I'm like sitting there waiting on every bated breath going, ooh, Creature Commandos, oh, this thing, oh, Supergirl, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. And to back up for a moment, if we were feeling kind of down on Lucasfilm over the last year or so, it's because they've already been in transition for the last 2 years. Kathleen Kennedy, and this report was in December of 2025, this deadline interview. So we're going back, 2023, essentially, is that she's kind of almost had one foot out the door, essentially, is like, all right, we're going to be slowly trying to find, so they've been putting a lot of resources and time into trying to figure out the legacy of Lucasfilm, not so much planning its future. Now you give them another year and a half until Celebration, they're going to have the whole thing hopefully figured out by then to really blow the minds of the fans there that are there, because this is the phase 2 of Disney Star Wars, essentially.
Let me ask you guys a question. What if, I don't want to get our hopes too high up just because you know how they are cagey about the OT characters. But what if one of the early projects they announced, what if like you get Dave up there and he's like, hey guys, like, I've been thinking of this like animated project for a while, and we're going to do a post Return of the Jedi animated Han, Luke, Leia season or something. Like maybe we get something in that ilk, because I feel like we're going to get something, whether it's that or something more in the Dave Filoni ilk of, just to put his spin on it. I mean, I would, if I was taking over a company, I would want to put my fingerprints on it.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna, you're gonna find the projects that weren't announced to be refreshing and be like, oh, that wasn't announced before. Oh, that's really exciting. Blah blah blah. Like, I think the best thing he could do is, you're talking about Clone Wars, just make a freaking sequel trilogy or like TV series or something. Like we talk about like fixing prequels in a sense, fix the sequels by doing something like that.
Yep. I've been saying that for how long? Like, we haven't gotten none of that. We should have been gotten that should have been on the forefront from day one. But it's
Milton. They'll get cute with it and explain it this way. They'll say, hey, for anybody who's been wanting this type of stuff, we've waited 13 years for this because we wanted to wait until Dave Filoni was in charge. That'll be their politically correct way of saying, hey guys, we haven't addressed this in 13 years, so we'll just say we've been planning for 13 years for Dave to do this.
Yeah.
That'll be their. I just think I think though, guys. I think for a lot of folks, when it comes to this whole subject, it's just like, it's just such a shocker because it's real. I think that's the part the internet and a lot of people are still grasping, because we've been hearing. I was looking it up. I couldn't find it any further back, but the farthest back I could find about like folks, like credible folks reporting, hearing rumblings about Kathy, leaving was the end of 2021, was the farthest I could find any sorts of talk like that. So we've essentially been hearing rumors the past like 3.5 to 4 years about this. And the fact that, it's actually here, and the fact that it's not just from like Deadline, literally StarWars.com posted it. Like, so it's like a monumental moment for Star Wars fans, because like, to me as a viewer, as a fan of the brand, even as a podcaster, I've been down on Star Wars lately because it's just like, oh man, it just feels like when Star Wars is really popping, I feel like we're consuming so much more. I'm consuming so much more Star Wars content, whether it be YouTube videos, TikToks, whatever, audiobooks. But like for so long over the past like year or two, it's just like, man, it feels like, it's just kind of like Star Wars is more kind of on like the B level for me, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting around to it. Where like I love it, it's still a big part of my life, but it's not as exciting. And for me personally, it's like, now that we're at minimum, even like in a sporting reference, at minimum, this is like your sports team getting a brand new head coach and general manager and be like, okay. This is exciting. Like this is something to get excited about and be happy about. And like I tweeted, like this is the happiest and most excited I've been about Star Wars in a long time, because I don't genuinely know the direction. Because before, when it was like Kathleen, and not to like dog on her, like, when you're looking at the future of Star Wars, it's pretty bleak, because it's like, man, everybody's negative about this, everybody's negative about that, everybody's negative about this. And it's like, man, we're going to have negative Star Wars stuff for the next 6 or 8 years, essentially. And now that we have a new direction with leadership, it's like, oh man, I don't know where it's going. So it's actually exciting.
Yeah, it's the most I've ever cared about a CEO or president in my history. I'm just like, why do I care about this? Well, it's because we care about this property so darn much that this does matter, because this is going to steer the direction. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Ben, I shared an image from Facebook that I found earlier today. If you want to go through, if you have that access, the history of Dave Filoni at Lucasfilm, there's like several bullet points that will tell a story for the listeners and the viewers out there of how far this gentleman has come in the ranks of Lucasfilm.
Oh yeah, I mean, Dave's literally, it's been 20 years coming. Like he's gone through so many animated projects. I love hearing. I don't have the Facebook post on hand, but
All right, I got it.
Oh yeah, okay, go ahead. Well, while you pull that up, I was going to say I cannot pull that up at the moment. But yeah, while you're pulling that up, I just think Dave's whole journey is so good. And like when you're pulling it up, Chris, when Dave, the funny story about him, when he said when he first got the job at Lucasfilm, I think this was in the Mando season 1 behind the scenes documentary. He was saying like when he first got the call, he thought it was just like the other people in the Nickelodeon department pranking him and saying, hey, you got a job at Lucasfilm, yada, yada. And he said he thought his coworkers were just playing a prank on him. And he said when he picked up the phone, it was like Lucas's secretary. And she was like, no, you got the job. And he's like, oh, wait, you're not one of the Nickelodeon people? And she's like, no, and that was a great little story.
It really was. I love that little anecdote. So I do have, I found this on a Facebook page. Okay, so 2005, which is actually the year I entered high school, so this is how far back we're going. Joined Lucasfilm as George Lucas's apprentice and began to develop the Clone Wars. Then 3 years later, in 2008, made his directorial debut with the Clone Wars movie. 2008 to 2012, oversaw the Clone Wars. 2014 to 2016, oversaw Star Wars Rebels. 2016, hired to lead all Lucasfilm animation. 2019 made live-action directorial debut with The Mandalorian. 2020 promoted to executive creative director. 2023 hired as chief creative officer and ran his first live-action series with Ahsoka. And 2026 hired as the co-president of Lucasfilm. So yeah, that is quite the list of accolades. Talking about rising through the ranks. Literally, like Milton was saying earlier, this is the closest we have to a clone of George Lucas, essentially leading Lucasfilm. Now, my only concern is, okay, this guy is all the way at the top. He needs to start teaching a pupil of his own. He needs to have a Padawan of his own, because he's not going to be there forever, and then we can't have George Lucas's lineage die off with Dave Filoni, right? So I want to know who on the inside of Lucasfilm is it Sam Witwer? Who is it? Because Sam Witwer knows so much damn stuff about Star Wars. It's a matter of time before we see him maybe doing a Star Wars. But I mean, I know he's an actor. That's not his priority right now. But he knows a damn lot. He's powering around Dave Filoni all the time. But yeah, I would hopefully that there's somebody at Lucasfilm now that is absorbing all this information that was passed down from the Grand Master George Lucas from Dave Filoni at this point.
I think the interesting thing with that, you joke about Sam Witwer, but I do want to see what his creative input is on the Maul series, because who knows, maybe he's slowly going to start working his way up the creative side of things. But yeah, you're going to definitely have someone like that at Lucasfilm. The big indicator for that, in my opinion, just keep an eye on the common name that's on projects. Like, if you see a low-level name on Ahsoka, low-level name on this, low-level name on that, whatever, a continual, repeating name, there's something there with that person. So I think that's a big indicator to look out for. And I think, like you mentioned, Chris, this is like having, our next closest thing to George Lucas. And we've been really diving into all of this stuff so much. Here's a fun question, I think, as we're getting closer to the end of this show. Now, all right, for you guys and for any of our listeners or viewers, if you're Dave Filoni, if you think about it, when he got promoted, that was Thursday, so I'm assuming he had Friday off. I'm sure they're partying this weekend and stuff. Tomorrow's Dave's first official day at the office as president of Lucasfilm. He's clocking in probably 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Probably 9 o'clock. But yeah, what's Dave Filoni's first day on the job looking like as the president, or co-president, I guess I should say?
He's finally posted a damn video trailer of Maul Shadowlord getting good credence and credibility with the fans, going, oh yes, this first day on the job, he's already doing what we want him to do and posting cool Star Wars stuff. That is the best way you can start your job at Lucasfilm as president. Is this guy has the stuff. He's giving the fans what we want is this damn trailer with a release date. Please give it to us.
Hey, that's funny. I mean, I would say he's finally going to relaunch the Star Wars YouTube channel.
Oh yeah,
and bring back remember how they used to do awesome. the post episode commentary with Andy Gutierrez and all that one guy. Bring that back. I loved it when they do the episodes of a show and they do a 15-minute this is what happened in the episode. This is how we're going to break it down. We're going to interview Dave or whatever. Bring that back. Also, he needs to give us a post Return of the Jedi anime series. I know we mentioned it, and do something in the Old Republic, whether it's Darth Bane, Revan, Malik, whoever. Give me those stories. I want to see those in animation form or something. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that's what he's gonna do. He's probably gonna, honestly, probably this start of this week, he'll deal with whatever little things he's got to do, obviously starting off your first day as president. But I feel like for the next several weeks and months ahead, it's just going to be intensive planning. Hey, what am I doing with the future of the whole franchise? Because it's pretty much in his creative vision. So he's probably going to be just typing and or coming up with ideas or things like that. Because we know Ahsoka's done, and we know he started on the day his own movie. He said he's already wrote the opening scenes and sequences for it. So it's just I think he's going to really be taking the foreseeable future, probably just laying out plans like that, Milton, whether it be Old Republic, post Rise of Skywalker, or in between, or wherever. I think it's going to be so much planning and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he'll be walking in with applause from the people of Lucasfilm for sure. Speaking of Knights of the Republic, Millen, we did have a comment from Pala 1966. I love our question. Do you think Keanu Reeves would play a great Darth Revan? That relates to what we were talking about. Oh. Yeah. What the heck? Why not?
Question. Yeah. It's not even a question. Yep. Yeah, everyone bit literally all the fan art, all the AI stuff, it's always been him. Um, Keanu Reeves will be perfect for that role in Star Wars. I mean, look, I've sent you guys those stories that I've listened to on
Yeah.
YouTube. The guy that did like the whole AI thing, he used Keanu Reeves. Like he used his voice, his look. He played
Oh,
Revan, and I was like,
oh,
yeah, this works. So give me Keanu Reeves as Revan. I'll play Darth Bane. I mean, I'm already bald. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be Darth Bane. Hire your boy. I'll be Darth Bane. I'll team up with Revan. We'll smash some people in the Old Republic. Let's do it.
oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a great question by that commenter. I think Keanu Reeves would be dope as Revan. It'd be curious to see how they would tie all that in to. I mean, we have the outline of what that looks like with the Old Republic. So
Yep.
yeah, just copy and paste it, tweak it, make it work. I love to see it. I think everyone who's a true Star Wars fan will love to see more of those characters come to life, whether it's big screen or
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah. So,
I
so
oh good.
in the Old Republic MMO, they actually unmasked Revan, and I think that's why they got Keanu Reeves a lot in this fan art because the model does look a little bit like Keanu Reeves with the
Yeah,
official
That's funny.
canonical look of because you know in this Old Republic you create your character. You know, it's the biggest twist in Star Wars gaming history. Your character ends up
Yep.
being Darth Revan. So essentially, up until the MMO, Revan could be anybody you wanted to look like. But they have a canonical version of a basically this guy with longish hair, slicked back kind of thing. It's like, all right, yep, that's kind of like Keanu Reeves right there. So we have another. Oh, go ahead.
Keanu Reeves would be a badass Jedi. It's not even a
Oh
question.
yeah.
I mean, he kicks ass as John Wick. Why wouldn't he kick ass as Revan? I mean, imagine. First of all, he used to fight with like with a sword in the Matrix. He can
Constantine as
fight,
well.
facts. He can fight with a lightsaber. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, I think he'd be perfect. I do want to say though, I do want to just put a little, I guess, little sticky note. I guess something to be on the lookout for. You know, Milton, you mentioned the AI stuff you've seen, like on YouTube. That and that channel's great and everything. The interesting thing to look out for in the future, though, everybody, is obviously with Dave being so close with Kathy, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if she partners back up with Lucasfilm in terms of technology. Because I want to just throw this in there because in her interview,
Yep.
she's wanting to work on the AI technology of like creating characters and things, and she even got asked about like, hey, what about the concerns for the actors and stuff? And obviously she like gave a good answer about that, and she akined it to back when George was creating the technology with ILM for Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that's going to be interesting to watch is like if her and Frank Marshall and whatever AI company they're partnered with or work with, I wonder, maybe what if in like 3 or 4 years from now we get her partnered back up with Lucasfilm, like they perfect AI animation or whatever, and like maybe she comes back and that sort of role like George did with like ILM. Maybe like Kathy and Frank Marshall develop something for Dave where Dave has like unlimited creation possibilities with like you know characters like that, so they could just go and make a Luke and Han and Leia series with flawless flawless looks or whatever. So that is something for us to be out on the lookout for with Dave. I don't think we've seen the last of Kathy yet, because like with her referencing the ILM breakthrough on Jurassic Park, that means to me that she really wants to get this AI thing figured out. And like if so, I feel like we'll eventually see it in Star Wars in terms of a project with
Yeah.
Dave,
I
because I could
yeah.
see Dave, oh well, like one more quick thing on it, Chris. Like I could see like Dave, how he respects George so much. He sat there and watched George push technology's boundaries more and more. Couldn't you see Dave saying, "Hey, we're going to be the first Star Wars full AI project, and we're going to take a swing on it with if the technology's right, like George did."
I mean, first of all, going back to that article, we're going to come back to that article on a future
Yep.
episode because that article specifically, let me
It's
get the guy's
big.
name right. His name is Mike Fleming Jr. over at Deadline.com had an article that's got like 5 episodes of Outer Rim Transmissions worth of topics in it. So obviously we're not going to be able to talk about it within an hour. So our just reactions to this. But yeah, reading that tidbit of her saying like AI has potential to be the biggest jump since like Jurassic Park, like this crazy CGI moment that nobody's seen before. Like that's huge. That is a milestone. I go back to, you're talking about Dave Filoni and like his potential to maybe inherit and accept that technology of AI. It's like we go back to The Mandalorian season 2. They were kind of like the first studio to do like a deep fake on the level of Luke Skywalker. I mean, I don't think we've seen that from any other property ever before, right? That's something that's unprecedented in that realm. So if they were doing that already, it's like, yeah, I mean, Lucasfilm has always pushed the boundaries, and that's why it's always been one of the reasons why I loved watching the Star Wars movies as a kid growing up, is like you're going to see like, oh, what's the next latest and greatest thing that's happening out there right now? It's Avatar, you know, Fire and Ash. You go and watch Avatar, it's like these guys are pushing the envelope. James Cameron is pushing the envelope with seeing what these CGI is capable of. So you know, it's time for Star Wars to do the similar thing and go ahead and go, let's go ahead and see what's going on that side of things.
Yeah, I'd be up for it. I mean, you know, that's like, it is kind of in the spirit of George Lucas. He always was pushing boundaries on technology and, you know, all of that stuff, whether it be with the OT or Jurassic Park or the prequels. You know, he was always pushing and pushing and pushing. I mean, look at all the behind the scenes stuff. You know, we've all seen it millions of times, especially you, Milton. Like, look at the behind the scenes of especially Revenge of the Sith. You know, the actors are walking in and it's just blue and green screens everywhere, and they're not even on set or anything. And like George pushed the boundaries for that.
Yeah. I do want to end the episode. We have one more comment, which is going to be an interesting one to get into. So it'll be a good one to end off on. This is from Hakeem Zain. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. The problem is, at least to me, it's not a regime change, and the team is exactly the same, and judging by her outro interview, the vision sounds the same. I hope I'm wrong, and we see positive change. And I get that, Hakeem. It's like, nobody has really actually left the studio. Nobody new has actually gotten into leadership. These people, as I said before, have been there for the last 20 plus years, right? So that's I got it right. Cool. So that's how it goes. I mean, I'm going to throw it over to Milton, you know, taking a look at that. Like, hey, are we actually going to see change? Because everybody's still there the same.
Yeah, I mean, that's a legit question. You know what's sad about that question is that Hakeem has to ask it. It's because, you know, it's a trauma response. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been seriously, like it's a trauma response.
I think an easy example for you to throw out there is look at Doug Peterson was successful with the Eagles. He got let go, and then they still succeeded with Nick Sirianni. Like, you know what I mean? You can explain that a little better than I can, but like, you know.
Yeah. But what he's asking, and I get his point, because we've heard that Lucasfilm and Disney were making changes and that they were listening to the fans for years, and nothing changed. It was their same agenda. So now we're being told that leadership is changing, and it's someone that we love and really, you know, believe in. However, there's always a possibility that Dave's going to be the good old boy and follow company line and just, you know, do what Disney and what Bob Iger wants. And I mean, I get why that question's asked, because he is still conditioned to think the way that, or to envision things that's been going on the last 12 to 15 years. Now, I think with Dave being in charge and with this other person co-heading it with him, I feel good that Disney and Lucasfilm won't do the same things. I think they're going to reassess themselves, be self-aware, and say, hey, this is where we were successful. This is where we struggled. This is where we failed. How can we change where we struggled and failed to get us back to where we were, I mean, literally at the height of our power in 2015, 16, and even 17. Those first 3 years of Disney, Lucasfilm being a partnership was at the height of its power. And then literally as The Last Jedi came out, and then it became not Rogue One, Solo.
Solo.
It just
Yep.
dipped. It just dipped,
Mm.
literally. So I think that question that's asked is a great question because
Yep.
even I'm a little skeptical, a little bit, but still feel that I still feel that Dave will right the ship. I think Dave will literally reassess where Lucasfilm was successful and where they failed. I think he would actually want to expand the universe, but also protect it to ensure that that George's legacy is what it's all about. It's all about what George tried to um what he tried to bring to us as fans. And I think
Yep.
Dave is really all about that. So I'm hopeful that, we're gonna get what we need from this change.
I I agree with you. I mean, I think like you said, obviously we can definitely be skeptical because they didn't do sweeping company wide, hey, let's make a total turnover with
Right.
everybody that works at the company, which logistically that'd just be too. That'd be the only way that would happen, in my opinion, um, is if a new studio bought Lucasfilm. Like if Apple bought Lucasfilm, they would just clean house and hire their own employees
Right.
altogether. That's the only way we'll ever get a company wide complete shift of the brand. Um, and so it'd have to be something like that for those types of sweeping changes. But I think the main thing, for like Akeem and for anybody that may be a little skeptical, I think the important thing to remember from like Kathy's interviews, I think I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, was that Dave, no matter how we view Dave and Kathleen, Dave obviously at minimum is her friend, whether he agrees with her creative choices or not. But like, over the years, what's he supposed to do as a director of animation at Lucasfilm? He's probably making 300 grand a year when Kathy's making like 20 plus mil a year. Like, you can't, that'd be like at your work, Milton, going to your boss and saying, hey, let's change the structure of the business because I'm unhappy with the way you're running our company. Like, I just think that's something
Mm.
we have to consider as well. Like, Dave was a low level or low paid, relatively speaking, employee and on the power scale compared to Kathy. So there's that. Plus, with them being friends and like Dave, looking up to Kathy or learning from Kathy, etc., being her friend, she gave him the permission to make his own choices when she said it's up to Dave. When she got asked about her project that she was wanting to be developed, she literally says it's up to Dave.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a great sign because now that's like George giving Kathy permission. Hey, you handle the brand now or whatever. Like now this is her passing the baton to Dave. Like, hey, it's your turn. Like you gotta go on your Jedi journey or whatever. Essentially versus doing what I was doing. So I think that's the biggest bright spot with all of this, that like she gave the green light. Because if she gave a wishy-washy answer of like, hey, I really like my projects that I had on the books even though I'm retired or I'm stepping away, like, if they'd consider it, if she gave some weird wishy-washy answer, but she literally said it's up to Dave. So
Mm.
I think that honestly is kind of a relief for Dave, because now it kind of gives him permission to, or it does. I mean, it gives him permission to do what he wants without having that looming over him. Because if she wanted those projects made, if she just came out and said, I'd really like them made, even though I'm stepping away, then that puts public pressure on Filoni and everybody to get those projects done. Because if you don't, then you're going to have people saying, oh, Dave, why do you cancel Kathy's projects? So I think that's the big thing we all have to remember, is that she gave Dave the permission.
Yeah, and tying in with Hakeem Zane's question here, part of it for me is going back to the hunt for Ben Solo, and this
Yep.
idea that Steven Soderbergh, we had this amazing actor with Adam Driver who was behind the project. Kathy brought this idea to Bob Iger and Bergman. What's his first name? I just know his last name.
Alan Bergman.
Alan Bergman. They shut it down. What's not to say that the same crap happens with Dave Filoni? Because ultimately the buck stops
Right.
at Bob Iger and the leadership at Disney. Does Dave Filoni have maybe more persuasion because he's
I
more
think
of
he
a
can communicate
storyteller.
the idea better.
That's what I mean. Like he, as a storyteller, like
Yep.
we watched those videos of him talking on like a monologue about the Force and everything. We're like, I remember it was like the Gallery of the Mandalorian season 1 or season 2. He went on
Bryce
like a
Dallas Howard and them were like stunned.
he
They
went
were
on like a
whoa.
5 or 10 minute monologue about Qui-Gon Jinn and all, and like you'd be kidding if you didn't say that we were all like glued to the screen, like soaking up all this information, because the way he's telling this and the knowledge he has, hopefully that'll lend credence and let these executives that only see the money signs actually believe in taking a risk, because maybe he can deliver the thesis in a way that gets them to actually buy in, because that's ultimately where it happens. We could have all the best ideas from Dave Filoni, but in the end, it's there. He's not the complete control. It's Disney that is the overseer of Lucasfilm. So I really hope that him and Lynwen are able to really play nicely with them and show them the confidence again in the brand, because we keep saying, I think the confidence in this brand from Disney has been on the lower tier again. 7 years into the movie, like that's pretty bad from a business that is putting out 2 to 3 Marvel movies a year, 2 to 3 Pixar movies a year, probably 3 or 5 original Disney movies a year. Why is Lucasfilm like out there just not really delivering anything? So I think that is where we'll leave it for tonight. I'm really happy with this discussion. I think it's a great place to leave it off. Like I said, this is the tip of the iceberg. We have so much more to mine out of all the news that has been coming out of this story since Thursday, as we're recording this on Sunday. There will probably be even more in the next couple of weeks when we return to record again. But until that time, Milton, where can the people find you, and what might you be talking about online these days?
Yeah, you guys can find me on X at Milton Weber 7 or on Instagram at Milton7Weber. Hit me up on both platforms. Keep it low key, keep it chill, keep it funny. But nah, man, I appreciate y'all listening. Appreciate y'all watching. Love discussing Star Wars with my people. Hopefully, with this new leadership, hopefully Dave can communicate. And I think Ben, you make a really good point. Hopefully Dave can communicate ideas to Bob and say, hey man, I know y'all control the money, but this is what the fans is wanting. This is what is needed for this project. I think he is the best spokesperson to deliver what fans want, and obviously what in the best interest of the company. So other than that though, hope you guys have a good night. Hope you guys are having a great start to your new year. So appreciate y'all.
There we go. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, Milton. I think, it was a great discussion tonight. It's fun getting back on here, especially talking about a monumental Star Wars moment in Star Wars history. I mean, honestly, this is tomorrow morning is the start of the new Star Wars era, essentially, if you guys think about it that way. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time one way or another. It's always interesting with Star Wars. So yeah, you can find me talking about all of this, or fitness or anything else really at Real Ben Maynard on X or Instagram.
Yep, and you can find me right here, youtube.com/Starrapter, where you'll find our videos, my videos, and when we go live, again, just hit that bell icon to be notified when we do go live. And go ahead, I have my Twitter, twitter.com, x.com/Starrapter. You'll see the promos of these videos. I post the link to the YouTube in the morning before we go live. I also have the podcast you could download if you feel like rather be listening while you're driving, at the gym, what have you. You can just search Outer Transmission. Again, I want to shout out all the people in the chat here tonight that were able to provide their insight and their hype and their just overall feedback on what's happening. This is why we do this, man. We are part of the community ourselves. We love this. This is why we're doing this podcast, because we love to chat about Star Wars amongst ourselves. So anybody that's in the chat, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well. We really appreciate your feedback and everything. But until next time, this was Outer Rim Transmission episode 220 for Milton, for Ben, for Chris, aka Starrapter. Thank you for watching. May the Force be with you always. End transmission.